So Lane and.
Pastor.
So we do have a quorum. Whenever you're ready. Yeah. Okay, I would like to call the meeting of the CDEC into order on July 3rd at 6:02. Dawn, will you please call the roll?
Yes, and I'll start by saying that Elaine and Fausto are excused. Roll call is Larry.
Hi, sorry. Larry Forty.
Guillermo. Here,
What was it? Yes, yes.
thank you. And Jane,
Here.
Sarah,
Here.
Robin,
Here.
and Jeannie Star.
Here. Okay, great. Okay, let's see, first on the agenda tonight, we are going to approve the minutes from June. Does anyone have any additions or corrections? Seeing none,
I move to go ahead and accept the June 9th minutes.
can I have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Rodriguez. Any discussion? No. Okay, see none. All in favor of approving the June minutes, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay, I see no objections. Approval of the June minutes approved as presented. Moving on, we have, community comment. So, we have one person signed up today. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin. You will have 5 minutes to offer your comment. Come on up.
Okay, Tammy Kunz, Kaiser, Oregon. Can you hear me okay? Because the microphone is facing that. Everybody should have a flyer. We are partnering with Southeast Neighborhood Association for National Night Out, August 5th. Everything you need to know is on our flyer. We're meeting at the Elks. I hope y'all can join us. Short and sweet.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Is this an annual event? Sorry.
This is the first time we've partnered with the Elks. Jackie and I have been trying to partner with them the last couple of years. They actually signed on to partner with us this year. And because they were in Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association boundaries, we asked them to join us. So it will probably be an annual event every year because they've already asked us if we would do it next year. Yeah, we have
I'm
not
not
decided yet.
familiar with Elks. Can you tell me about the group or?
I don't know a whole lot about the group. I know that they have partners and do other things within the community. They have a huge space off of Cherry, not far from the chamber. And, I just figured it was a good idea to partner with some of our community.
Yeah.
It's gonna be set up like a farmer's market. We got a bunch of vendors and stuff coming in to donate time and resources, and we're just gonna have fun.
Love it. Thank you.
Tammy, just so you know, Kaiser Times has it going in our newspaper on July 25th and August 1st. If you could pass it on to the other neighborhood associations if they've got anything going on to let me know.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'll put an email out tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. So, I want to add. Well. Yeah, I guess that's fine. So while we do have enough people for the forum, we are missing two voices, and I really feel like they should be a part of the conversation with this agenda, because it is a lot of goal setting. So with that, I'm just trying to decide if reviewing the joint work session without the two members is appropriate, or if we should hold off. I'm wondering if Counselor Starr, you have a recommendation?
What else would you do on your agenda then, what if you're going to hold these agenda items to have their voices participate, what other agenda items would you cover if their voices are important? So, I mean, their voices are important, so I understand what you're trying to do, I just am trying to understand why we had a meeting if you're not gonna discuss the agenda.
Can I chime in for a second? I was definitely. I know we were checking in to see who was gonna be available. I wasn't expecting as many people. I think, obviously we haven't, seen Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Porter, so I think it'd be good to kind of recap what's going on. We have Robin here as well. I was expecting a little bit of a smaller group, so I'm glad we're here. I think we could maybe summarize it, and maybe making action items out of the discussion that we have, so we can discuss with the other two members that aren't here. So I know we had a conversation, but I think we're in a good place. I think it'd be a good time to, move forward with what we have on the agenda. I think that'll work.
Okay, great, I'm in agreement. Okay, so, the next item on the agenda, we're gonna review the, joint work session from, the June minute. And is that you?
I can walk through it without necessarily planning on it at this point, but we can.
Who put that item on the agenda?
I guess it would have been me.
And that would, so then you can handle that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we had a joint work session with the council. And this is where we, decided the 5, items from Appendix A that we are going to work on for this upcoming year. So we, were very collaborative in that meeting, and we identified 4A, 4B, 4E, 4F, and number 5 for us to work on this year. Essentially, you know, that was the goal of the meeting, and we achieved that. Sarah, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think we also added, I think the goals that were the items here that are listed on the agenda are definitely long-term goals. We did come up with some ideas that could make an impact in a quicker way to get in front of people, to let them know that we're here as a committee, as an option to them. So there were suggestions, like, the postcard, that we, is it on the agenda too? Yeah, to talk about the agenda, to just give people information. Let's lead them to the website, let's lead them here to the meetings, let's start getting information. The conversation did revolve still around data, which is kind of the main focus. And we, not that we don't know where to go, we just want to make sure that what we're doing is impacting the community. So I found it very collaborative, a lot more clarification on, we still have some questions. Can we meet this way? Can we have additional time? You know, there, I think that some of the similar language that we were having is, we want to get a lot of things done, but the limited time that we have, so we have to be very constructive. We have to make sure that we're, finding this time here in these meetings, effective in order to apply these, ideas that we're moving forward. But I overall, I mean, just speaking for myself, I feel like it was a really good meeting to meet with them, and to kind of get the ball rolling on stuff like that. So yeah, that's my input from the work session that we had. Robin, anything to add?
Member Barney?
I really don't have anything more to add. That pretty much sums up what we talked about. Also included with that was, as we're gathering data, we still can take action. We don't have to wait till all the data was in specifically, but as we're getting data in, we can go ahead and start acting on it.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Barney. If there's no other questions or comments,
I do have a question
Mr. Rodriguez.
for, identify leaders and build leadership capacity when represented in under the group. One more time. For F, identify leaders and build leadership capacity of underrepresented and underserved. What's the purpose of that, and what would you do with it?
That's a great question. So we will come to that after, we review the first
Okay,
three.
that's fine.
So yeah, let's put a pin in that and come back to that. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to, item 5. So again, we're going to go over the goals that we have established. This is to identify the actions that we're going to take to achieve, again, the ultimate goal that we have to decide upon. I'm looking at timelines as short-term and long-term. So short-term goals would be probably like a 3-month time span. And then our long-term goal would be a year. So essentially, you know, what are we wanting to overall achieve, and what are the steps that we need to take to make that happen? So looking at 4A, collaborate with other organizations. We want to build trust, educate ourselves, support local efforts, and invite more voices into the city conversation. So I'm looking for, you know, ultimately, what is the long-term goal of that? To me, that means, establishing partnerships with local groups to collaborate on events. So that means we can be a part of an event, we can help plan an event. Volunteer, and so. You know, a measurement of that could be that we establish 2 ongoing partnerships. With the local, 2 local groups where we participate. You know, we could go to a meeting of their groups, we could invite, you know, that local leader to come present at a CDEC. So those are some ideas for our long-term goal. I'm wondering if anyone has any thoughts about that.
Madam Chair.
Member Barney?
I think that we should start reaching out to some of these organizations and getting contact information, and perhaps, committee members can pair up if they're familiar with an organization, a particular organization, or has one near and dear to their heart. And that we sporadically say attend meetings, otherwise, you know, we already are meeting planned out. And bring information back. As soon as we start that process, more data will start coming in that we can act on. And I think at this point, with this committee, the community is looking for action. In all aspects. So as soon as we could get that started, so I would say that it would go on the short-term list. That's where I'd like to see it go.
So am I hearing that each committee member would identify one local group to, you know, establish a relationship, bring that information in? That's our short-term goal, right? So for in the next 3 months, we're
Yeah, that,
right.
if each of us could pick one group that we're interested in, or say even have a connection in, which would make it even easier to, lack of a better term, infiltrate the committee. Then we could start, gathering our data much sooner. and act on it. There might be something out there that needs our attention right away, or something that is, again, long-term. So I'm asking that to go on the 6-month list, or short-term list.
Thank you. Number now.
I think since we already have timelines on our kind of view site, trying to get set up on, proclamation days, on, neighborhood associations, on, I'm trying to think of what the other was. Regardless, I think it'd be good to structure it also in a spread out way to where we're hitting education, whether that's schools, is it events, is it volunteer opportunities, is it city events? To where maybe we have, I think it's a wider net for us to do that as a nonprofit, is it, I would say, would the city be an organization to consider too? Like things that the city does, so I guess my ask for that would be to see it as a short-term goal. I think a timeline is realistic for us to do as a short-term goal to, okay, we're assigning stuff right now, we're giving it to people, let's get out there, let's get into the events. I think that will come organically with what we already have set up. As far as long terms, I definitely see collaborations, I see the working as we get to know them, you're gonna see people's talents, what they're good at, what they're talking about. So your suggestion of bringing them here to speak, to present, things like that, I can see that more as a long-term goal too. As we start getting to know more community leaders, volunteers and things like that, I think those opportunities will come with the initial time that we're putting in. So I think it's a realistic goal and I think that's why it's on this list too. And it does fit with the short-term, long-term parameters that we're trying to set, so.
Thank you. Counselor Stark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wood, Ms. Wilson. If my memory serves me correctly, you're already nodding. We have a list already of and it's a lengthy list, right? And I see Tammy nodding her head as well. Of other groups, committee organizations, et cetera. So maybe that list could come back to the next meeting for discussion, and then maybe I would suggest that members just start kind of writing down, any groups that they are already connected with or affiliated with in Kaiser. I think it's really important and to not just limit it to the list that we already developed a while back. But be able to add to it. So, thank you.
Thank you. I also went ahead and asked some local leaders, diverse leaders, kind of what they thought about it. So I will also send on that list that I came up with, just going off of what Sarah was saying, having, with education and just with a wide variety of folks. Potential, partnerships. So just to make sure that we're all in alignment, in the next 3 months, each of us are going to identify a group, or if you're already involved in a group, you can attend one of their meetings, speak with, their leader one-on-one, so that you can bring that information back to the CDEC by the October meeting. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just looking at the current list, it's about 6 pages long of different groups that operate. It's not an all-inclusive.
Sure.
And I'll go through it and scrub it one more time before I send it out. But what would be helpful is when I give it to you folks, you can take a look and say, oh yeah, I know the contact people there, and you can start writing that down. If you want to send it to me before the next meeting, Don or myself, then we can add it, and then we'll have more of a master that we can look at during the next meeting. But also when you talk with some of these groups, let them know that their contact information will be part of a public record. And so that they aren't caught off guard, that they start getting calls from people with that kind of a thing, have the potential to get calls. So that might be a good next step for this part of the process.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that information. So, yeah, so it sounds like we're going to wait for that list for me, and then we'll go ahead and emailed him back with the group that we want to work with. Okay, moving on to 4C. Collaborating to increase community events. So we want to increase public participation and BDEC visibility in the Kaiser community. You know, we can use our partnership, right, that we just identified with those leaders to learn more about and help increase public participation for maybe one of their events. You know, that could be an idea. We talked about hosting a CEC meeting outside of chamber halls. That seems to be a really interesting idea that people really gravitated towards. So that could be, you know, the action that we take under that specific goal. I'm wondering if anybody has any ideas about that. Member Bernie.
And I have a list of like 5 organizations I thought I'd sent to you, maybe I didn't send them. That are ADA capable and also the ability so we can either video or tape our meeting like normal. And that was, McNary, the View Restaurant, they have a conference room there, or a reading room there, the Grange Rec, the rec itself, the cultural center and the senior center on Philomath were areas where it was big enough where we could meet and also host a larger group of people. And those particular, organizations or groups also have a following which would attend as well, which would be most helpful to us. Yeah, I can get that information off to you as well.
Thank you, Member Bernie, that's super helpful. Chair Stark?
Did you, Ms. Barney, mention the Southeast Kaiser Community Center?
No, that was number 6, thank you.
So I'm wondering then, is it decided that our goal, or did you have a question, Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Okay, then I'm wondering if our action under the collaborate to increase community events is to host a BDEC meeting outside of City Hall? Or does that make sense for the short term or long term goal?
I think we should try it. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work, and it's feasible.
In my opinion.
I say we try it.
Is there a preference on the location? I will say the rec. I appreciate it's a bit more centralized and I think just very family friendly. I'm curious if more people might feel, you know.
I know they have like special bowling nights or like a family or like themed nights of some kind. Maybe we can piggyback off of something like that. Typically the weekends are gonna be a little busier for them too. I could research a little bit and see if they have, in the next 3 months, in the next quarter, or however they have it set up to see if we can narrow down a timeline to set something like that up.
Well, and that's where, Mr. Porter?
I know at the rec, they, for families who have foster kids or adoption kids, they have special nights or they have special things for families with foster kids and adoption. So that would be a good thing for families in the community that may have foster kids and adoption kids to come because they give them special things. I'm sure there are a lot of families that we dealt with fostering adoptions.
That's a really great idea. And, thank you for that, Mr. Porter. I know that, Mr. Ramos, he is the manager at the rec, so he's gonna be the perfect person to talk to about this.
And they have a meeting room upstairs.
Excellent.
And then we can go bowling after too.
Even better. I like that.
See, tips in. That's it.
We love bowling.
Madam Chair, there is, and, Tammy, you might know the answer to this. At the top of the roundabout, there's a church. What's the name of that?
Oh, on church on.
Everybody, it's not Church on the Hill. It's,
I feel like I've seen a
It's a
Spanish,
church, right?
it's a Spanish name.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know,
I can't pronounce it, so don't ask.
but anyway,
Yeah,
I think that might be, reaching out there and seeing if you could have, a meeting there. Might be an interesting,
yeah,
worthwhile to try.
that is an interesting idea. I actually know
I feel
quite
like
a few
it's
families
really
that go to that church, so I really like that idea, thank you.
So I think it works. I think if we realistically set ourselves up to do like a night on the town with CDUC, and I don't know, I feel like it's more approachable, like, not saying this room isn't welcoming to people, but I think the setting might start a different conversation, and yeah, I think it'll work.
Tim?
What would be helpful just to keep in mind, if we do find an alternate location, just make sure we have enough time that we can do adequate advertising and public notice. That way we can make sure that people will show up and have at least the opportunity to know that we're not meeting here. So when we get to that point, a couple of weeks would be great, so we can stay on our social media.
And to clarify, this would be in addition to our already monthly meetings, or is this replacement of?
It would be in replacement. I suppose we could add another meeting, but I don't see why we would.
Okay.
So with that in mind, Tim, I appreciate that timeline, especially for an outside meeting. So I'm wondering a realistic timeline would be to get the logistics settled in 3 months and then in 6 months, but within 6 months, we have that outside meeting.
I think 3 months is feasible, logistically speaking, you're putting a meeting together, I think it's just about communication, there may be a flyer. I feel like we have the good bones of it to be able to do it. Typically, you'll need, 30 days to start putting it out there on social media, on websites. People tend to forget about things a little bit longer than that. And realistically, I would say 3 months for short term.
I agree.
We would need to then talk about what that meeting is going to look like, right? Like what we are going to be sharing as the CDEC. So if we want our goal to be within the next 3 months, we hold that meeting on the next agenda. We'd have to talk about it. I still think it's a little bit tight. I'm gonna be honest, that timeframe. Yes.
Madam Chair, could the goal kind of be like a phase 1, phase 2 goal? So phase 1 is to have them scheduled and identified in 3 months. And then phase 2 goal is to actually conduct the meetings or hold the meetings in the next 3 months by the end of the year, something like that. So that I think sets well because it's summer. And I feel like things take twice as long to get scheduled and to get communications confirmed in the summertime.
That sounds a lot better. I agree.
Thank you for that. So in the next 3 months, we're going to schedule and start to talk about what that meeting will look like. And then within the next 6 months, we will have that outside meeting.
And I think we'll already have things to have on the agenda, depending on what we're working on, but I think the additional work will be how are we, what is the word? How are we individualizing that? You know, there's a purpose on why we're doing this out of this room, so I think just adding those additional touches to it will give us a hefty agenda for that.
Okay, great, thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on now to 4E. That is the data collection and survey creation. So Adam Brown, our city manager, let us know that there will be a city survey happening within the next several months. and we have the option of submitting one question, for that survey. Obviously, it has, Tim, you're looking, yeah. please,
Tim
please.
and I are looking at the only one question.
Oh my gosh.
That's a loaded question.
It's gonna be a three-star.
So we're, with respect to the survey, we're still in vendor selection.
Okay.
And that's kind of the phase. I think we've kind of narrowed it down, the direction we're going, but we still have to go through the contractual process. And that's gonna probably take us a month or so, would be my guess. And then we'll open that at city council approval to move forward with it. With respect to the questions, we're gonna probably go with a national kind of survey, so that way we can compare our results to other similar agencies, cities our size. So we'll have a little bit of comparability. In addition to the standard questions that they'll have to ask to get that comparability, we'll have a handful, 20 to 30 questions, somewhere in that range, that we'll be able to ask in addition to what the standard ones are. The challenge we'll have to run is how many extra questions do we ask, and the survey completion rate, I suppose, would be the question. And the experts kind of have a pretty good feel for, how many questions are too many. So this group will have an opportunity, in addition to if there's any other really pertinent questions, other committees or departments have, and the police department has a fair number that they'd like to ask. But we'll go through the process and have this group have the opportunity to submit questions. I wouldn't necessarily say there's a limit. However, all the questions that we ask may not get in, and we'll have to prioritize once we figure out what the total population of questions are. So I would anticipate we'll probably have that rolling forward in the next month or two. Hopefully, I would anticipate that we'd have the result or the survey in process before the end of the calendar year.
Okay, thank you for that, Tim. So to me, that sounds more like a long-term goal, right? 6 months, could be longer, right? Who knows? But we know that that's not gonna be our short-term goal for now. So we do have information in, oh, I didn't bring my binder with me. We do have demographic information about Kaiser in that notebook, and it is relatively, yeah, thank you.
It's
Oh,
in your,
and it's recent.
and it's in your packet.
There we go. Thanks, Dawn. So, I would say a short-term goal could be that, in our own time, we review this report. And in the next 3 months, we could talk about, if we have a specific question that we want answered. If anyone has suggestions on how we can use this information, because this is really I think a lot of extremely good data that we can work from. So I'm wondering the short-term goal for our data. Review this
Gotta look at this.
and come back with what, I guess, is what I'm asking. Yes.
Madam Chair, I just asked Ms. Barney, because for some reason I feel like our fire district did this, gathered a lot of similar information already. So I am happy to reach out. I know they've had a change in transition in that position that I thought did all of the work, but I'm happy to reach out and see if we can
Yeah.
poach,
Okay.
steal, whatever we want to call it. So not reinvent the wheel. So I'm happy to follow up on that.
Thank you, Counselor Starr. I'm wondering thoughts, though, Tim, yeah.
Just a couple of highlights from the demographic information. It is a couple of years old, but I think it's still pretty relevant to
Yeah.
the demographics. We haven't changed a heck of a lot over the last few years. Really, we are a slower growing population now. We had some really fast growth many years ago, but we're relatively stable, which is consistent with the conversations on the urban growth boundary and how that's really kind of constraining the population growth that we have. We do have a slightly higher age in Kaiser. We also have a little higher mix of ethnicities. And that has changed quite dramatically over the last several, well, when I say several, last 20 years or so. So it's a big change. We also have a slightly more educated population in Kaiser, in comparison to Oregon itself. So those are some of the highlights. We have slightly more females than males in Kaiser. The average age is about 36, although we do have a kind of a bulge in the 60 range and also the 18, 19-year-old range. So it's kind of an interesting kind of age
That is
population
interesting.
we're dealing with here at Kaiser. We do have, for the married folks, most of them are homeowners, which is about 30% are rentals. When you get into people who are single or don't associate with families, it's much more of a renter situation, which is pretty common in that kind of area due to a little bit more mobility. I think that's kind of the highlights that I'll just say. As you look through the demographic information, if there's holes or something you think is missing, let Don and I know, and we can start pulling some more data for you. Most of this is coming from the US Census Bureau, and then it gets updated, I think, somewhat annually. So with that, I will just leave it to you. Thank you.
The amount of knowledge that you hold in your brain specifically about Kaiser is amazing. I just have to say. So it sounds right. So it sounds like, in the next 3 months, we can review this data. Counselor Starr will see if there's additional data that we can look over. And in the next 3 months, we can come back and talk about the demographics. If there's anything missing, like Tim mentioned, we can take this into, the group, right, that we are connecting with, see if maybe they have, any comments or questions about that. So I think it's, if anything, it's good to be able to share this with folks in Kaiser. So, does that sound okay to everybody? Right, what do you ask? Okay. Here we go. Moving on to 4F, identifying leaders and build leadership capacity of underrepresented and underserved communities. My thoughts with this is, the VTC is the group that does a lot of the work with the committees because they are the ones who elect most of the members of committees, besides are the CDEC. So I'm wondering how we can use or, build that relationship with the BCC. Don had sent out an email of open positions on committees. I got that today, so I shared that online. But that's the type of information that I think is good for the CDEC to know. So my thoughts are, a short-term goal is to, one of us can attend a BCC meeting, or if we know somebody individually who's on the committee, we can talk to them. But I'm thinking if we want to increase leadership opportunities, the BCC might be a good place to start. I'm looking for comments. Yes.
I wonder what it would look like for this committee to maybe put together a mini training, if you will, for interested members of the community that might want to apply at some point for a committee. I don't want to say training, but maybe an informational session or a 101, right? How to serve, how to get involved 101 about, what it looks like to fill out the application, what it looks like to come to the VCC to do the interview, how to, maybe how to give public comment at a meeting or a committee meeting, just kind of like come up with some bullet points of things that might be a good beginning point, to help people start to feel comfortable with the process that is our city government and how to get things done. How to get involved or, and even in that training, it could be how to find your local neighborhood association. It could be, so any number of things, like that. Just what that might look like for this committee to put that together.
I really like that idea. Robert, no, I'm curious your thoughts.
Is it VCC? V as in Victor?
Yeah, sorry, volunteer coordinating committee.
I really appreciate the thought that, Counselor Starr has, because we do want people to feel comfortable, getting involved in local politics or coming and just knowing how to give comment. I think sometimes not knowing stops a lot of people from participating, and we really want to bridge that gap. I appreciate that idea, but I'm looking for,
I
thoughts.
do have a follow-up question.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, I was thinking that, I don't know if there's enough time, but at that, meeting that we would host outside would be a good place to also bring it up, and have.
Absolutely.
So.
Write it down.
Maybe,
that's my
maybe even bullet points, of things that, this is how you apply, this is how you can get involved, and we want, people to participate, we want you guys to be involved in this committee, so not just for any, in other words, it's not, a click, it's everybody can come and apply for this kind of stuff.
Question,
Great idea, yeah, member now.
does the VCC have the same amount of people in the committee?
Yeah. but
Yes.
The same.
One per, well, technically this committee would have one more, because there's a youth appointee. The BCC has 7, one appointed by each counselor.
Okay,
So this committee technically has one more with the youth person.
now is the request or the idea, would it be solely on this committee, or would it be more of a collaborative effort where we can invite the BCC committee to come to the meeting that we set up, or to these, or
I think
is collaborative okay?
I think collaborative is great. I think, from a council perspective, let me rephrase that. From my perspective as a counselor, one of the key parts of this, committee, was the engagement piece with members of our community who are not typically part of the process. And so, I think if we, first of all, to your point back on the survey, understanding maybe why they don't want to get involved or what are those barriers? And then you take that information and you help kind of, build that into this training or this outreach, to empower them to get involved. I think, if you didn't know what to expect and you came and you sat down at that table, I think that's probably pretty intimidating for a lot of people,
Sure.
seeing all, kind of people, I don't necessarily care for the elevated, the elevated thing is a little, I get it, but that might be intimidating for people. I would guess that it is, and if you, don't know that you have to say your name and you're, that you're Kaiser resident and things like that, and you have 5 minutes, and here's where you can look at the little timer thing that, Mr. Whitman's running over here. Those kinds of things, somebody doesn't know that might be a little, could be kind of intimidating. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning, in helping empower people to, and give them the kind of the tools to be able to come in and share their voice. And you can send it in, right? But here's what you have to do when you send in written comment, right? To be your name. So those are just some thoughts that I have.
I have an idea, and I'm happy to execute.
Oh, Mr. Porter, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. People I have talked to in the community, I've been, when of the comments is, how do you get people involved? Some people that I have talked to is, they feel, and I'm just gonna, they don't feel welcome. How do you get people involved when they don't feel welcome in a community that they moved into? They like it here, but they don't feel welcome in the community that they moved in. And I was, I did a lot of thinking when I was asked to be part of this community, this, I'm part of this board. But that's how I felt when I first moved here. And I still feel like that at times when I go places. But I'm an outgoing person, I've always been that way. But people I've been communicating with, that I've run into, isn't like that. How do you get them? How do you spark that? And that's what that's one of the things that I've been going through my head, listening to this, especially this portion right here. So,
Thank you for sharing this report. I mean, I think you're halfway there, right? And the conversation is, right, people are being honest with you about how they're feeling about getting involved. And so, what do they need to feel more comfortable? And so I think it's fantastic. That's, you're already having those conversations.
What do we need to do to make them feel welcome? Not what do they need to do
Right.
to feel, but what do we,
Right.
need to do to make them feel welcome?
Mr. Porter, if I may, I think it starts with us. I think it starts with the 7 people that were selected here. I can tell you from my perspective, the work that we've been putting in, the ideas and things like that. I can personally give you the commitment to show up as myself and hear those conversations, but also with the intent to make people feel welcome. And if that means by having conversations with them, if that means by having meetings in different settings, by putting us out of our comfort zone to do that, I think that's the initial step that I can give you as a member of this committee. And just from the working sessions that we've had in the past, there is that momentum, there is that eagerness of wanting to get there. It's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time, and I know you understand that. And I think with good intentions, we can definitely get there. And I really do feel like we're heading in that direction. I just want to share that with you. That's at least my personal commitment to showing up to the meetings, to getting people involved, to educating them, giving them the information that they need, making them feel like they can walk into these, be a part of this. So I hope that carries through in every single meeting or event or survey or anything that we do. At least that's my intention. So I hope we can get there that way. Yeah.
Member Barney.
Might as well. When I was asked to join this committee, I gave long and hard thought to how I could participate and be involved. And the one thing that I kept going back to was, one, engaging the community. Those that are not here, that don't get represented or are too fearful of coming. And how are we gonna do that? My thought, and having been on similar committees, is that we have to go to them. We have to meet them in their communities, at their meetings. We need to be understanding when we go and be very respectful and have some education prior to getting to that meeting. So we can ask thoughtful, intelligent questions so that we're not insulting anyone and that they feel as though that we really do care about them. I do care. I was mortified when I heard that this room here was uncomfortable to come into by a certain sect of the population. I literally got in my car and drove right down here after reading the article and sat in this room trying to determine someone would be uncomfortable being in here. It's, yes, a legal building. It's a building of authority. It's a city's building, but once you walk in, the walls are generic. You have your city mayors on the wall, you've got past documents on the wall, and beautiful artwork. So why does this building become intimidating? Why is it? Because you have to walk past the police department? Then maybe, you know, I even was bold enough to ask a person, why are you afraid to go past that police department? Have you done something wrong? Well, no. Well, then why would you be nervous? You know, now I do understand that certain sectors are nervous about it, but I do believe that we go out into the community and we ask those questions, but before we do go out to these sectors, that we do have an intelligent idea of what they represent, what they stand for.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think we need to go back to the mission statement, you know, why we exist, you know, why we are here. And I was reading that, and it said basically we need to listen, you know, and I think that's, yeah, instead of us telling people how they think or whatever, we need to listen and understand. And then it says, once you have listened, we need to strengthen and encourage civic engagement. So we encourage people to, you know, come on out, you know, but we will welcome your input. We will welcome what you have to bring and stuff like that. So again, you know, that's our mission, I think, is that we listen and understand where they're coming from and stuff like that. And then, you know, again, encourage people to participate. And yes, go ahead. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Member Nell?
I just wanna thank you, Mr. Porter, for bringing that up. I truly do hope that the message carries across that way. I do have an idea about the BCC. People are on their phones like 100%. I can truly see just a short video, making it funny, making it approachable, like actually being here. I'm willing to put in the research and the work and see if there's any students that are out there that can help us put a video together to just make it approachable for people to do that. It's informing them. It may put us in a silly thing. I might have you do something silly, Mr. Rodriguez, but I think I don't know. I can see it. It makes it
I
approachable.
can do that.
It just becomes approachable. I mean, people are just scrolling through and it's something that we can share on different platforms or use in a way. And, you know, if people wanna use it for other reasons, you know. That's just an idea.
Keep it coming.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I really like that idea, and again, just going back again to the listening, you know, that whatever video that we've collected information enough to know what the fears are, what the concerns are, and then we address them through that, you know.
I appreciate that. So for our long-term goal would be to create a video. Or would that be a short term?
I mean.
Or we could
I
make
mean,
multiple of them.
Is serious.
Yeah,
I mean,
it could be a short series.
30 seconds of just.
Well, there's a lot of TikTok kids out there that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta have them in like 10, 15 seconds, but if that's what you have, then it's obviously curating it to that. It could be like an informational. It's easy to do a quick reel, get in here. I have a little experience in the marketing end of it with running a restaurant, and you know, you do have to make it appealing, and if it's appealing to, you know, come out here and be a part of committees, then you know, that's kind of what we're selling out there too. We do want people involved. We want them to be here at these meetings, and that's what we're putting out there, so.
And I will say, I think it'll be important to have a, you know, Spanish and English videos, right, for sure. Member Barney, did you have a comment?
Just to tag on to, Sarah's comments, I think that's a really good idea. McNairy High School, maybe we write the script and the kids do it for us. They could take that on as a class project come this September. where we write the script, the kids do it, and they can dress in costume. They can dress like old ladies, little men, whatever they want, but it would give them one experience, also give some training, because we're giving them a script on what we would like to see.
So I was like short term could be realistically highlighting, I like the idea of multiple, if it makes it approach short and sweet. But maybe we come up with another list of video ideas that could educate people or inform them on the system and how it works. So I think that would be short term, and then we're gonna know our connections, our people to go to. Just the logistical process of it and getting it there. I can see that being a little bit more long term, but getting the ideas on paper would be good. That'll give us a better timeline, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is more just a clarifying question to make sure I'm tracking, because I've heard what Mr. Porter and Mr. Rodriguez said about, just, Mr. Porter, what some of the concerns are and what feelings, that people have about participation and then Mr. Rodriguez, you talked about the need to listen. And so I'm wondering if we maybe we make this video thing, not that I want to add one more type of goal, but like a midterm, like a midway goal or something versus long term. Because I feel like if we make the videos before we've listened, and before we've had those crucial conversations, we might be missing.
Who are you to tell me this?
Yeah, so
Sure.
we're kind of back to where we,
Yep.
right,
Yeah.
where we started. So if we make, because I feel like I hear everybody's excited about this kind of the video thing, and I think it's a fun idea, and it would be different and new. But I want to make sure that we've done the listening first, or I'd like to encourage us to make sure we've done that. So maybe we make it a mid to long-term goal. But again, breaking it up into kind of like phases, right? So phase one is we do our listening, we do our information gathering to Mr. Porter and Mr. Rodriguez's point, and then we do the planning, in the midterm, plan out what that video series might be, and then the end, like the long-term goal is actually the production and rollout of them.
I think that sounds like a realistic timeline. I think also, right, this could be a question, again. Our first goal is to find a group that we can connect with and, asking them about their participation and what makes them feel comfortable and uncomfortable, and making sure that we address that, because you're right. I mean, we have to listen if we're going to produce something of value. So, yeah, I appreciate that. So short term, we're going to be asking, what folks need to know in order to get more involved. And then our, 6 month where we can plan out this video series. And then, after that, we'll go ahead and produce. Excellent. Okay, last one, with the art.
Madam Chair, before you
Yeah.
jump on to 5, can I go back to 4A? Where it talks about collaborating with other organizations, participating, building relationships, and working with the neighborhood associations and other local groups. I think we talked about the list that we have of local groups, but I think when I think about the neighborhood associations, I think it's important to ask, maybe, build into your plan in that, to talk with the boards of each of those neighborhood associations and find out what some of the struggles are and the challenges are that they have in terms of getting engagement and participation. Because I think about my neighborhood association, and it's really big, but the participation in the monthly meetings is very minimal, right? So asking them, talk, and then maybe in these groups, talking about what would it take for you to get involved in your neighborhood association. So maybe building in a couple different layers of talking to the neighborhood associations. One would be the boards, because they're the ones that are doing the work to try and get the people to come and participate. So just a thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I made a note about the how and what in relation to neighborhood groups.
And just also reiterating, I think we want to obviously engage the neighborhood associations. And, you know, we have a neighborhood family council, Paradise of Samoa. You know, different pastors, the Hispanic business community, so. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Okay, again, moving on to our last goal to review, is the, postcard. So I went ahead and drafted a postcard, to what with the information that I understood, was asked to be on it. We're looking for feedback on anything at all, the color, the font, what it says. Anything at all. These postcards are going to be printed out and, you know, given out at city events. And I believe somewhere out here, right, is the postcard folder.
Should be,
Or
yeah,
older, I mean.
somewhere.
So-
Yeah, it's like the rec card, and that was one of my questions, is it a 4x6 or a 5x7, and do we have a brand guidelines? We do somewhere, fonts, colors, logos, all of that.
Oh, okay, I know about, yeah.
Process right now, but I would say, we have some basics that we've been operating off of. And if you folks are happy with the content on this, I'll take it to the department head group and on Tuesday and say, hey, take a look at this. How does this compare to our standards? Just we do want to make it somewhat Kaiser branded. So if there's any changes that we need to make, we can make those recommendations and adjustments.
And then I think that if I recall from our work session, I think council wanted to see it too before, so that would, if you're able to do that, Tim, that we could get it on the July 21st meeting, right? Meeting agenda.
That would be my intent, yes.
Member Barney.
Yeah, thanks.
This is her wheelhouse.
Yes, please, give any thought.
So, yeah. Always tons of them. I assumed that this postcard was gonna be specific to our committee. And if it is, and I don't know if each committee has specific budget money, I think that the backside of our postcard should have some bullet ideas as to what we do.
Yeah,
What we do. Contact information, what do we do? How they can give input and, maybe, I don't know. Do we have an email address at the city that is kind of generic that people can email this committee? So then we
Yes,
put
do.
we put that email address on there so we can start getting responses. And I didn't realize that we were going to.
Yes, Chair, sorry,
I-
or Counselor, sorry, Chair, sorry.
That's okay. I think that there might be an opportunity for us to seek clarification at the July 7th city council meeting. Because when I look at the minutes of our work session, it talked about creating a postcard to hand out related to the recruitment of city volunteers. And then the committee, the CDEC committee, to help with outreach, to increase the attendance to city meetings for involvement. So I think there might be an opportunity to seek clarification on what the intention was on that postcard, or the rock card, or, you know, whatever we're gonna call it.
Okay, yeah, so when I had asked Dawn for clarification from the council, that was my understanding with what was sent back to me, was that it needed to include all of the committees, and this wasn't singular to ours. Member Bernie, that also was my initial thought, was that we were just creating a postcard for the CDEC. But again, it was the, council reiterated that it needed to include all of this other information. So you're, yes, Counselor Starr.
So let's peel the layers of this thought back though for a second. What if we were gonna do a postcard, let's let's pretend for a minute that if these minutes are, right, we've got this set of minutes, but if you had a postcard that was, for the CDC only, what would the content of that postcard be? Because maybe we do too.
Ooh. I'm all over that.
I mean, so I'm just like, I'm throwing this out there and probably throwing, probably shouldn't be, but like, that might be good conversation that if you had to, you know, if you had a CDC specific postcard, what would be on it?
What are your thoughts? What are our thoughts? I felt some excitement in it.
Really?
Yeah, Marnie, what are your thoughts?
Again, I think we need to put our mission statement on it first, our contact information, so that we can get some feedback, whether it's random, whatever. And what do we do? Who are we? You know, I'm okay with my name being listed on a postcard, using the email from the city, good please. But it would be, yeah, and some bullet points as to what we're looking for from the community so that we can listen and hear, you know, our goals. Here's our goals, how can you help us, type of a, informational postcard. We need your help. If you don't ask, people don't give. Then all they can say is, I don't wanna, and then you move on to the next person.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, I have some questions. So is this like a recruiting postcard?
Not necessarily. My understanding is it's more informational. However, it will have information on, you know, included so that if anyone was interested in the CDEC, you know, they could send the email to the general email that, you know, we have, or, you know, this is how you would contact us. I mean, it's a city councilor that elects our particular positions, but.
And the reason I was saying that is, just the way it's worded, like it says join,
Okay, yeah,
or it is supposed to attend or, I don't know.
okay.
See her.
Oh, I like that one.
Say it again?
Let your voice be.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
We want to hear from you.
Yeah, yes.
Tell us what you think. Like,
Because join, it sounds to me like you're recruiting to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess in a sense, we could be right, if somebody did want to join a committee, here's a list of all of the.
And that's fine,
You know,
except for, yeah, if that was the case, let's say that I want to join the Kaiser's, the general fund, long-term plan. But they don't have positions available, then how would I know that? You know what I'm saying? And the other question was, is it digital? Is it a digital postcard? Or is it, an actual postcard?
It'll be an actual postcard.
Hold in your hand.
So that's a good point. What is the intent, right, of this postcard? Is it to recruit or is it to invite folks to come to, you know, the
Yeah.
committee meeting and, you know, share thoughts?
I think it's both and, which is why we.
Yeah.
It goes back to. So, Mr. Carter, do you have any thoughts or?
Yes, Madam Chair, my first thought is, if I was looking at this, it's like, John, why, I mean, that's just more time out of my busy schedule, you know, and but if I was to look at it as, you know, come and let my voice be heard, then I'm more willing to come to share my, my voice than to want to come and try to join something that I know absolutely nothing about. I mean, that's the first thought people will think. And so let's take that fear away from them and give them that strong feeling of they want to hear what I have to say, you know, and then show them the opportunity that's we're providing for them with the options that they can do, you know, but let's show them that, you know, hey, this is about getting you guys in here and letting us know your heart, letting us know what's on your mind. You know, showing us, telling us what we can do, you know? But if I see joy, yeah,
Yeah, really good.
throwing it away, and, cause a lot of people are gonna like join.
Right.
You know, throw it away.
Yeah.
And go about their business.
Yeah.
So
Thank
let's-
you for sharing.
Yeah, so let's put it in a way where it's gonna empower them to wanna come.
And I like to add that, I like the phrase that you have down here, where it says, everyone is welcome to attend all of the meetings, if you come in, and I like that, that's really good. Except for that being emphasized, so that's why probably we're having a problem with the word join, but here's, is your statement, is clear and good, I think, right? That's
Okay.
that's very good.
I'm sorry. That's okay. So, what I'm hearing is 2 postcards are more than likely needed or desired. And we heard about some language that needs to be changed. Member Barney, you were excited about creating something like this. Is this something that you want to
I'll take on.
take on?
I don't know if she heard all the comments though. So.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I have a
So-
work emergency going on.
Okay.
Actually may have to step away. Yeah,
Yeah. that's
yeah,
okay.
I gotta call it, I'm sorry, I have to
That's okay.
make some calls.
Yeah, do what you need to. Yeah.
What can I do? What can I help with?
No, go,
Bring
go.
them.
What's that?
We'll email you that.
What's that? Yes, I should have pizza at home, I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's okay.
I do
Take
have to
care of
head
yourself.
out. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm wondering then, I mean, if you guys have some thoughts or ideas of what this could say, couldn't we just email them we could email them to Member Barney, would that be okay?
Sure.
We're not making a decision, they're just giving input, right?
Yeah,
The city is
Yeah,
not
and then-
here, so yes.
and anything I put together, I'll put in print before I send to you. Oh, wait.
Okay, so yeah, so our short-term goal then would be to give our input, you know, about the postcards and in 3 months' time, have 1 or 2 postcards. Which one do we? Yes. Counselor Starr.
I just wanted, thank you, Madam Chair, I was just gonna add one more thing to the pile. Where are we at? Just trying to be efficient and effective with time and resources. Where are we at with the survey? Because I'm wondering if there's a way in one of them, if we do 2, right? Because I feel like there's kind of 2 things that we're talking about here. If we take the survey and we build it into one of the QR code.
Okay.
Yeah, so just, putting that out there.
Okay. So that is an option to add. We would have to come back to that. We would have to come back though to that survey, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can. I say, think about what we want on our CDEC postcard specifically. And, we can bring that information, those thoughts back, in
Or
our
email.
next meeting.
Or email.
Or, yeah, email them,
Email.
yeah, and then we'll talk about that then at the next meeting. Okay. All right, moving along. Okay, so item 6, so I will just, you know, say this, that we have proclamations, for the city, with the intention of educating and connecting and, advocating. And I think in order to make sure we're all on the same page about meeting those expectations, I heard from some folks in the community, and so, the ask was that we have some additional guidelines for our proclamation presenters. This could look like giving some examples of, kind of how they can, talk about their, their group or their story. A guideline could be that we review, what they have to say. One guideline, could be that, 1 month prior to you having to choose, the person for the proclamation, you bring that name to the CDEC, just to give a heads up. So with that being said, do you guys have thoughts on how we currently, choose and have these speakers for the proclamation? And if so, do you have any additional guidelines that you would like to include?
Gotcha.
Member Barney?
I think that, we are wise to put some guidelines into place. Just some real simple ones, I'm thinking, bring the name of your speaker a month or 2 months ahead of time. See if there are any red flags. I think I know the people that I've chosen really well, but I don't know who all they communicate with. And there might be something that somebody here knows that tells me, no, they're not the correct speaker for that. I also think that we should be privy to what they're going to say and hold them to it. Because our committee is not a political platform for anybody, not even ourselves. In order to be effective in this community, we need to remain non-political and make sure that our proclamations are received as met. And we provide them in good faith.
We need to bring people
I think
together.
that we need to leave our own judgments and opinions at the door. And think mainly of those people that we serve. When we get somebody that's a wild card, it reflects on all of us. And those little things chip away at the integrity of the committee. So I think we really need to do our due diligence to make sure that the people that do pick up their proclamations are grateful. They understand the process, they get their 5 minutes. And I think that's about it. I mean, as simple as that. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I mean, yeah, we need to state what our goal is, when we bring in, what is our goal? What do we wanna accomplish? We wanna, again, I agree with what you're saying, that we need to have a guideline about reviewing what they're going to say and to make sure that it is bringing us together as a community and not creating division or being political in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, we're looking for harmony.
Mhm.
And that's what we need to be looking for.
Because it was my understanding that we were to stay out of politics.
1 second, right, reporter, that's okay.
So I'm taking something did happen in order for your comment.
So I will address it. Our proclamation last month, it was passionate and it was honest, and I believe the experiences were very much true. And I think ultimately what was said, it would have, I think, been more effective with the back and forth conversation. I think what was said, needed to be said. But again, maybe in a different setting where the conversation could have been more collaborative, I think just understanding a little bit more would have been super helpful. And again, ultimately, we want the proclamations to be, educational, and we want folks in Kaiser to get involved, and we want them to know about things that are happening in Kaiser and, the things that we are doing and things that we, can improve on, right? That is also real. And so there was some communication from a number of people, just about their feelings, regarding that experience. And so, recognizing that and moving forward with it, just again, having clear guidelines, for our speakers. Now, one piece of feedback that I did hear about reviewing what they're going to say prior is that some folks don't have what they're going to say written down, online in advance. I can say, often that's my case as well. So I'm not sure how realistic that is, but I think, identifying the person for sure, I think could be extremely helpful, and having our intentions, for our proclamations, listed out, right, in regards to, you have 5 minutes, giving the directions, but again, just some additional guidelines.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
thank you.
Member, Barney.
If it is a requirement for them to let us know what they're going to say, perhaps not in total verbiage or text, but in bullet points, I find that not to be inappropriate. And if you can't jot down a few things and bring it to us so that we can make sure that it's appropriate for the meeting, it's not an attack on the city, then it's clear. But I don't want to be part of any of that attacking the city and political agendas that we bring in the city council. We're here to serve a particular group of the community. I think they're already weary. They're uncomfortable to walk in here. So let's make sure that everything that we do is as pleasant and as appropriate as we possibly can.
Member, Mr. Rodriguez, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree in part, and again, we're not here to, I understood that we're not here to just address a specific group, but the whole group, and making sure that everyone is included in the group, and like you're saying, we're not attacking or singling any group, but like I said, it's just bringing harmony to our community. That's the point of the whole thing. And I think what she suggested, maybe bullet points, but at the very least, that we have clear guidelines for them, that, our expectations about what what we expect from them in their presentation. I think would, at the very least, need to be something that we need to do.
So Counselor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, I think it's really important, that there's a delineation between, maybe what is, to your point, Madam Chair, when you said a different venue, maybe not venue in terms of place, but different, section on the agenda, right? So there's an opportunity for public comment, right, that people can sign up for if they want to share what they're thinking and what they're feeling. I think then there's, like proclamation about whatever the subject is. And so I think it's really important that we be clear that we're not trying to, there is an opportunity for people to share how they're feeling or what they're thinking, And that is, done under public comment. And then your proclamation, is a time for educating about what that proclamation is. So whether, I'm looking at, and just the one that I know about, for 10 years, Child Abuse Prevention Month, right? I think that for me, if I was giving that proclamation, there would be certain things that I would say that would be under public comment because they're an opinion that I have, right? Something that I think, our, maybe not city, but, state and national government should be doing, or how we should look at child abuse. But those are my opinions and the things that I see. The proclamation is educating about the issue, right? So I think they're two very different things, and I want us to be careful that we don't come across as trying to control what is said and not make it, but I want to make sure people know that there is that opportunity for them to share their feelings and their opinions and what they think. And, we all have the right to free speech. And I think people should exercise that. There's just a different place on the agenda for that to be done. And I think that is part of what goes into the guidelines, like kind of clarifying that. Here's what you talk about in a proclamation. If you have opinions or feelings or thoughts, let's do that under a different part of the agenda.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts. Any thoughts or opinions? Yeah. So our short-term goal in the next 3 months, we want to offer some guidelines for the proclamation. So my thought is, a sheet, a paper that we would be giving to folks doing the proclamation. So go ahead and think about that. Think about the specific guidelines we want.
So there isn't any at this point that you know of?
Can I, either Don or Tim?
I didn't hear what you asked, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was saying if there wasn't already some guidelines about, our expectations when we do a proclamation.
That we hand to people? Mhm.
Do other cities have them by any chance? Do we
That's a
know?
good question.
I don't know. Is there like a magical city reporter listserv that question? Yay, thank God.
Okay, so that'll be helpful. So yeah, if there's a document that we can use to help guide that, that'll be really helpful. Thank you, Don, for that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. It's 7:25, so these shouldn't take too long. Let's see, we already discussed postcard, the survey responses, and the type of demographics. So 7A, the committee members to select council meetings for reporting to the CBEC. So at the work session, it was decided that one of us every month would attend a city council meeting and just give them an update on what they're doing, if that makes sense. So, like if I were to go to the next city council meeting, I would let them know. We identified short-term goals for all of our larger goals, I suppose, that we're working towards, just kind of give an update like that. One thought that I had was whoever is in charge of getting, doing the proclamation for that month, you would just stay and give the update, right? If you're already there at the city council meeting for the proclamation, it would make sense, right? That you would just stay and do that. What do you think?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Just to put this into a little bit of perspective, all of the other committees have been doing this for a long time. And really the expectation is just 3 to 5 minutes, come and say, what happened at the last meeting. So again, for this meeting, we walked through the goals, started establishing action plans, timelines, talked about proclamation process and setting some boundaries. Just some simple things like that, so it doesn't have to be very long, but really 3 to 5 minutes, just a quick update. So the city council kind of, as a group, knows all together what we're working on.
The bullet points kind of thing.
Yeah, all points, exactly.
Thank you, Tim. Counselor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. They're really, and there's always, I shouldn't say always, probably 90% of the time, 95% of the time, your council liaison is obviously at a city council meeting. So if there's any questions or anything that, so they're there to help, to support you in that report. They don't give it, you as the committee member do, but your city council liaison's there to support. So for example, if one of you came to the next committee meeting, since I'm here today at the meeting, I would be there to support you. And if somebody had a question or clarification or whatever, and wanted me to jump in, happy to do that and share kind of what I remembered or what my thoughts were from the meeting. So your council liaison's always there.
Thank you, Counselor Ross.
I'm Counselor Starr.
Yeah, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you. So just for clarification, what is the next proclamation and who is in charge of that?
I think August, this is having in September, this is September.
There's nothing in July. September 2nd, which is a Tuesday, is National Suicide Prevention Month, and that's June. But I would strongly encourage someone to come to the July 21st. I'm looking at a date confirmation, July 21st, right? I would encourage, I think it'd be really good for somebody to come and report at that meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Is anybody available to do that? You said it's the 21st.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
should
should
say
say,
happy
the 7th, if that works better.
You what?
Or July 7th, if that.
Which
works
is
better.
Monday.
Yes, yeah.
That's the only thing. I mean, that would be great, but I don't know if that's too soon for people, so.
I'll take the 21st.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was easy.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. And I only get 5 minutes.
Yes. You won't be good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, committee member reports. Did anybody attend a committee that they want to develop? I will just say, it bleeds into 9 with the neighborhood association reports as well. Something that, happened at the last, I believe it was the last city council meeting, is we had a large number of neighborhood association folks come and give public comment about their thoughts on having a gas station built kind of in the heart of Kaiser, near the Kaiser Station area between sort of Whitaker and Bay Springs, that area. And so it was really great to hear the community come out and advocate for, themselves and their neighborhood. And it was also really pleasant to hear the council, really receive that and try to come up with some alternative solutions that might make that change a little bit easier. I do know that the neighborhood association, they would still like to continue those conversations because they feel pretty strongly about not having, a building right behind their home. So, the hope is that there would be some ongoing collaboration, but I think that was essentially, the point is that it was heard, it was received, and there was some creative solutions that were offered. So, yeah, so that's all the reports that I have. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No, just that the neighborhood association meetings are typically paused during June, July, and August for the summer months, so. But you have National Night Out, and they're all over the city.
Yes. Okay, and with that, if there's no other comments or questions? I'm looking around, I'm seeing none. I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting, what is the phrase that I used? Adjourn this meeting at 7:32. Thank you. Don, did you get all that? A lot of information. I feel like every time I shop there.